what's up? It's Shelby and welcome back to my channel. New hair, who's this? I think I want to do, I love the way that it looks, but I think I want to do the ends just a tad bit later. I might bleach it again, but I'm not sure. I really like it though. But yeah, I like going lighter in the summertime, so I really love this. I hate this little crimp though. It bothers me. But anyways, it's going to be going back anyways. But today we have another midweek mysteries and makeup, so yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into this video. Today's look is inspired by Makeup by Madison. We're gonna be doing a cute little swan look. I've been wanting to do this for a minute and I saw hers and I was like, yo, I love that. Get on with the case. So today's case is about Betsy Aardsma, I think is how you say it. I probably butchered that, but yeah. Anyways, she was born July 11th in 1947. So this case is a bit older. This case takes place in the 70s. But like I said, she was born July 11th, 1947 in Holland, Michigan. She was said to be very poetic and artsy and very empathetic still. But she was still gutsy and always what I got from it was she still liked to have fun and do things out of her comfort zone, but she still was very big on her education. She was super smart. She wanted such a good life, and she was still this creative, fun, outgoing type of girl, and she just seemed like such a good soul. She was absolutely stunning. She went to the Holland High School and she ended up graduating with honors. So she graduated from Holland, Michigan, or the Holland High School, and then she went on to go to the University of Michigan for college, and she was her major was English and arts. She did that, and then when she turned 22 years old, she graduated in 1969. So like I said, she was a very hard worker. She took her studies very seriously, and she wanted to go to Peace Corps, I think is what it is. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but she wanted to join that. But when she was 22 years old, she graduated, like I said, and she decided that she wanted to get a master's degree. So she ended up going back to school after graduating from the University of Michigan. She decided to transfer to Penn State, and she transferred to Penn State because her boyfriend at the time, David Wright, was going to college in Penn State for he was in the medical field. She decided to go to Penn State with her boyfriend David Wright, and their relationship seemed super good. They seemed super happy together. Everybody around them said that they seemed really happy. They were officially engaged. I think he was planning to engage, and they were ready to be engaged and start a family and stuff. And all of his friends loved her, all of her friends loved him. It never seemed toxic. Nothing ever seemed like things were going wrong. They always seemed like such a good, happy couple to everybody around them. And they both seemed super happy in their relationship. And yeah, they both worked really well together because they had a lot of things in common. They both were super smart and super into their work and their school, and they both had the same dreams and passions, so they got along really well together. Betsy was this fearless, outgoing person. Like I said, she stood at 5'8", and she had this auburn reddish brown hair and these big hazel eyes, and she was just absolutely stunning. Okay, and at this time in her life, everything was going as planned. She was happy where she was at with David and their relationship. She was going to school for something that she really enjoyed. She was doing what she enjoyed, and she was happy and she was content with her life. And at this point in her life, everything just seemed to be working out for her. Like I said, she was doing everything that she ever planned. Everything was working out so beautifully for her, and everyone around her could see her happiness and her joy and her dedication to being great in this world, pretty much. In 1969, it was nearing Thanksgiving. It was around the end of November, and a lot of the students were back at home, so the dorms were pretty quiet. There wasn't many people there. Some people did stay, of course, but most of them were back at home with their families. But Betsy had a assignment that was due when they got back from break, and this was like just nearing the 70s, so they didn't have like, you couldn't just go on your laptop at home and finish your assignment. You had to go like to a library and get information from the encyclopedias and stuff like that. So Betsy decided she was gonna stay back and she was going to get this done on campus. And I believe David actually, like, because like David's family was from Pennsylvania, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure. But like from what I like see, he actually lived there, like his family lived there, so he was still with her. So on November 28th, 1969, on November 28th, at about 4 o'clock or so, Betsy and her roommate and her, like, it was like her friend and her roommate, they were super close, I guess. They decided that they were gonna go work on this project. They were both gonna go to the library because she wanted to work on her project as well. So they both went to the library together, but they didn't actually stay together. They both were working on like their own thing. So once they got to the library, they split up, and her friend worked on the stuff she needed to work on while Betsy was doing the same thing. So Betsy went downstairs to the library on campus. I'm pretty sure it was like 2 stories, like there was a top floor and then like a lower floor, and her friend stayed on the top floor and Betsy went downstairs, and there was a professor there that was like managing it for the moment. Like during this time, he was like he was the one that was like supervising and like making sure everything was going smoothly, and that like if you needed help finding something, he would like show you. Oh, I just dropped that. Betsy got her stuff downstairs, and then she came back upstairs to finish what she was doing, and she went to this area in the library called the Stacks, because it was this area that had super low ceilings, and they just had like rows and rows of books that were just kind of piled up on each other, so it like felt like kind of claustrophobic almost. So she went over there to get her stuff together, and like I'm guessing she needed books from over there. But anyways, so that's where she was. I don't know exactly like where her friend was during this. I don't know if she was with her or if she was downstairs, if she went downstairs or what. I don't know where her friend was. And I feel like that would be very important to know, but maybe the cops were kind of keeping that on the low. But anyways, so like I said, they got there at about 4, and by the time Betsy got back upstairs, it was about 4:45, 4:30, almost 5 o'clock. Then at 5 o'clock, the like desk clerk that was working there, like, you know, there's always somebody at the desk that helps, like, if you want to check out a book. There's a girl there, and she said that a man came up to her at 5 o'clock and said, somebody needs to go help that girl, and then he left. And she didn't think much of it, like, because it's a library, maybe he was talking about, like, she needs help, like, with something, and she figured, like, maybe, like, oh, somebody else will help her, because that's not really my job, I'm just like the desk clerk. But if like knowing the events leading, like the events to lead up to this and what actually happened, maybe if she would have taken that a little bit more seriously, something could have changed. But I don't want to blame it on her, because she didn't know. Like, you don't really think, I don't know, like it wasn't alarming to her. So, but anyways, so Betsy was wearing a white long sleeve and then over the top a sleeveless red dress. And so when they found her, that's what she was wearing. But then it was nearing the, like, everybody was like ready to leave. Her friend was ready to leave, and I think she had other friends there that were like there with, like, she met up with them, and they went looking for her. and they found her on the floor in the stacks area with books scattered like around the floor and kind of around her. And to them, it looked like she had just fainted. Like, it looked like she had just fallen over and like a couple books off the shelf fell because like maybe she tried to grab it. So they tried to give her CPR right away, but it wasn't working, and another friend called the campus like cops and like first responders. Once the first responders got there, they too thought it was like an accident, like she fainted or like had a seizure or something and passed out and fell into these books. So they took her to the like little hospital that they have on campus, the Retner Health Center, which was the like campus hospital type of thing. And once she got there, they realized the severity of what had happened to Betsy. What everybody could not see was her red dress had camouflaged all of the blood on her body. Once she got there, like I said, they examined her and they realized what had happened to Betsy. Betsy had actually been stabbed 1 inch wide and 3 inches deep to her left breast. And so this was kind of, this was like severe. Like, they thought she had just passed out. Now they're realizing she was actually murdered. But the thing is nobody heard a thing in the library. Nobody heard like scrambling. Nobody heard yelling, screaming. They didn't hear Betsy like freaking out that she got stabbed. Nobody heard a single thing. Once the cops were informed that this was a murder, she was stabbed, they started to, ask everybody that was in the library, ask her friends and all of that to see what they can, like what they had, the information they had, if Betsy was hanging out with anybody, if they had saw anybody like that didn't like look like they were like supposed to be in campus pretty much, and what they knew. But like I said, nobody knew anything. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. No sounds were out of the ordinary. Literally, it seemed like nothing. Like I said, they never heard Betsy scream. They never heard rustling. They never heard fighting. Nobody heard a single thing. And so they went back to the library to ask the people working there, and even they said that they didn't really hear anything. Nobody seemed out of place. Nobody seemed like they weren't supposed to be there. It all was students. And that's when the desk lady told them that somebody had came up to her and said, you need to go help that girl. But she didn't think anything of it because he wasn't covered in blood. He didn't look like he had just murdered somebody. So she didn't really put 2 and 2 together until she realized that somebody had died. And so she went in and she went in and did a sketch and put out a sketch of this man. When the investigators went back to the library, like I said, they were going to go interview all the workers and go check out the crime scene and see what they could find. But when they got back, everything was cleaned up. Everything was. And the campus security did not do a very good job, irregardless of keeping the crime scene preserved, for the fact that all of the people in there were rushing to her to see her, to try to help her, to touch her, to like help. And then they actually found out that she had urinated while she was being stabbed, like if she was scared or if it was when she was dying, like when she died, she urinated. And the janitor had actually just cleaned everything up. He cleaned the carpet up and stuff and put all the books back, and it was a complete clean area, which really threw the investigators for a spin, because now they had no crime scene to investigate. They didn't have anything to go off of at the crime scene, which could have been very vital. Betsy's funeral was held February 2nd at the Trinity Reform Center. And the cops were really trying everything that they could to figure out who did this. But everything was coming up empty-handed. Like I said, nobody had heard anything. Nobody saw anything. And if they did, it wasn't sufficient enough. After her funeral and stuff, the coroner came out and told the cops what had actually been used to stab her, and they figured out that it was like a hunting style knife. It had been used with a very significant amount of force because, I mean, it stabbed right into her and pretty much killed her instantly. So it had to have been somebody with a lot of anger and a lot of, well, strength. So, I mean, they were looking into, at this point, they were looking into everybody. They weren't just looking at campus. They weren't just looking at people in the area. They were looking outside of campus. They were looking around everywhere now because it could have been anyone at this point. They didn't know who would have wanted to do this to her or would have done it to her. While they were interviewing, they had came across somebody who said that they might have seen 1 to 2 people fleeing the library at this time, but it was never like proven. But when they saw the sketch that the desk clerk had made, they were like, yeah, that was definitely one of the people that I saw. So that was pretty big in the case, but they still didn't know who this person was at all. They had no idea who this was. Nobody, like the police could not identify him. Nobody was calling in like, hey, I know exactly who that is. First suspect was David, of course, because they always look into spouse first, like just in case. So they were looking into David, but David was completely devastated. He said that he was actually planning to propose to her and like this coming December, and they were gonna get married the following year. That was like their plan. That's what they had planned to do. And police agreed that he was genuinely distraught by this. Like, he was not putting on an act. They all agreed that he was genuinely He was genuinely concerned that nobody could find out what happened to her, and he was devastated by this. And he had a solid alibi too. He said that he was with her that night, or that like afternoon. They had like a little Friendsgiving type of thing with a couple of other med students, and then he dropped her off at the bus station because she said she wanted to go get some work done. So he dropped her off at the bus station to go head to the library, and he went back to his place to get some work done himself. And his alibi checked out 100%. And he said that was the last time he saw or heard from her, was when he dropped her off at this bus station. By 1970, there was still no answers. There was still nothing. They had no DNA. They had no fingerprints. They had nothing to go off of at this point, and it was really frustrating, but the cops never really gave up. They kept her case open and continued to search into any new leads that they could possibly find. And Penn State actually raised a reward for anybody to come forward with any kind of information that they had. But again, nothing like ever came out of it because nobody knew anything. It's kind of insane that it could happen in such a public place and nobody knows anything. But they continued to search, and they continued to look into leads, look into people, look into places. They kept pushing her story out and keeping it on the forefront of everything because they wanted to solve this for her, because it was such a tragic and insane death that everybody was concerned. Everybody was scared. Everybody wanted to know what happened to her. The only thing was that the only big lead they really had to go off of is when they were interviewing people. Somebody had said that they were in the library and they heard a man and a woman who they assumed was a couple. They heard them arguing in the library. They were quietly arguing though. They were kind of whisper yelling at each other because again, it was a library, so they were being kind of quiet, and things seemed super tense between them. but this person didn't really hear like exactly what was said or anything, because like I said, they were kind of whisper yelling. But they said that hold on, let me do this because I have no idea what the F I'm doing here. Like I said, they had seen, or they had heard this couple or these people arguing, but he never saw who it was, so they can't confirm if it was Betsy or not. But he did hear them arguing pretty intensely. This looks so bad. This literally looks nothing like a fucking swan. They said that they heard like something hit the metal bookcase. They heard something hit that, but like I said, they couldn't say if it was them or not, if it was Betsy at all. They don't know. That's just what they heard. So I mean, it's definitely a big lead, but at the same time, it doesn't have that much information on it. It still doesn't look great, but I think this is as best as it's gonna get, so I'm gonna just leave it alone before I really mess it up. That was really the biggest lead that they had to go off of, because somebody witnessed or like heard a commotion happening, and that was more than they had off of literally anybody else. But one student stood out to them pretty significantly because of a lot of reasons. So this student was 25-year-old Richard Hafner, I think is how you say it. Hafner. He lived in the same campus residence as Betsy did. So they can already connect them, like them knowing each other through that. Richard was actually known by the police a little bit too much, because he had actually had a couple like sexual assault charges against him for like minors. And he was also stealing artifacts from the museum that he worked at. He was also known to be super aggressive towards women in general. He was like pretty aggressive towards them for like no reason. So they were pretty skeptical about him, also because he looked quite a bit like the sketch that the girl had gave. He looked pretty similar to what the guy would have looked like. So the cops think possibly he like Betsy and him like came along, maybe became like friends, because like I said, he was pretty charming. Like he didn't come across as somebody to be scared of. So maybe Betsy kind of came across him, they became friends, like hung out a little bit, studied together, whatever, and then he started to become aggressive towards her, and she decided that that wasn't what she wanted. She didn't want this aggressive relationship with him. Or maybe he tried to make an advance on her, and she was like, no, I'm in like this relationship that I adore my relationship, I'm not gonna do that to him. And he freaked out on her, and she called it quits, and he got mad and came and stabbed her. That's a theory that the cops have for him, which I think is very, very plausible, because like I said, he was violent. He was charged with violent crimes before. And her parents actually corroborated the story too, because I guess she had came to them and said that they were friends, but he was like I said, he became aggressive, and she wanted to like get out of the friendship, and she told them that, and he like, so, but she never mentioned anything after that. She was just like, he turned out not to be the person that I thought he was, and got out of that friendship. But there's zero evidence to prove that he did that to her, though, like that he was there at that library and did it to her. There's no evidence to link him to her murder. In 1975, he was charged with molesting 2 younger boys, but some stuff happened in court, and he ended up only serving a month and like a $500 fine, and then he was free. So I'm not exactly sure the like legal logistics of it. I'm sure you can look it up. After Betsy's murder, one of Richard's professors actually came forward and said, this professor said that he came to him like after she was murdered and was so distraught about her murder, but this was like before it had been confirmed that she was even murdered. Like it wasn't like known that she was murdered, but he only told the campus police this years later, and then like by the time he told the like actual investigators, it had been like way too long, because Richard had actually died of a heart attack in 2002, and by the time the professor came, he was already passed away by then. And just to prove how crazy he was, he drove 800 miles to show up at this girl's house that he had met one time. He showed up at her house unannounced, like didn't tell her, and she like was asking him to leave and he wouldn't, and so she ended up calling the cops to have him escorted like out of there, and nothing like violent ever came out of it, but still he obviously was not in the right state of mind. There's been many like accusations of him assaulting mostly young boys, but I mean, like I said, that one girl, he literally met her one time and drove 800 miles to her house. None of this really, like, nothing ever, like, he never really went to jail, and he ended up graduating with a PhD and going on to live life. But around the time that the murder or the assault on those two young boys came out, his cousin actually said, like spoke up and said that he was at Richard's house working in his garage with him when his mother came out and was like, and said, hold on, to the garage where they were working, and like completely flipped out on him, and she said, "You killed that girl, now you're killing me. Are you going to kill me, Rick?" So that was like super intense to say. Like, I don't know, that's just crazy. They all waited too long to say anything, and by the time like any of this came out, he was already had a heart attack. So he passed away. His nephew actually went to Richard's house to kind of clean it up and stuff, and he said that there's so many things in that house that he wished he would have never seen, but he never actually said what they were. He like never gave details, but he said he wished he would have never seen them because they were so awful, and they don't know if that's to the child abuse, you know, stuff like related to Betsy's death, or what it was, like if you saw stuff from them, like sexual assaults and stuff. It's never really been confirmed what exactly he saw. Some theories are, some people think it was the Zodiac killer because it was around this time, but the Zodiac killer was said to have like killed in like the California area, and this was in Pennsylvania, so it doesn't really add up, but it could be, because like I said, this was around the time that the Zodiac killer was killing, and it was an attack on a female, and it was super like like down low, so it does kind of match the Zodiac killer's MO. But like I said, this was all the way across state. A lot of other people do believe that the cops didn't elaborate more on David, mostly because of the fact that the way she died. She was stabbed directly in the right spot to kill her pretty much instantly with little to no blood. She died 5 to 10 minutes of the stabbing. Like as soon as she was stabbed, she died within 5 to 10 minutes, and there was little blood. Like there wasn't blood all over. Like I said, it was mostly just contained to her dress, so there wasn't like blood splattering everywhere, and it killed her pretty much instantly. Like I said, it wasn't like a random stab, like they just stabbed her to kill her. They stabbed her a couple times because they wanted her to die. They knew where to stab her, and who would know that more than a med student? But the other thing I saw too, I was watching Brooke McKenna on this case, and she had said, like, and this is also what I was thinking too when she said that. I was like, what about the med students that she was hanging out with that night with David at the little Friendsgiving thing? Was it one of them? Maybe it was a girlfriend of David's that was jealous and wanted to take her out so she could be with David, or a guy that was there, and she turned down his sexual advances, and he followed her there and knew she would be there, and like I said, knew how to kill her without her making a lot of sound, without blood going everywhere, that would kill her pretty much instantly. I feel like that is very, 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 very likely that it was a med student, but feeding off of that too, Richard was super smart with that kind of stuff as well. He knew about all that kind of stuff as well, so if it was him, he would have known as well. I think Richard plays a big part in this. I think he did do something just because of all of the stuff leading up to him. I do not think David had anything to do with this. He was very distraught. He was very, very upset. He seemed like he really had nothing to do with this, and I really don't believe that he did, but like I said, maybe it was one of his friends. That does seem pretty likely as well, though. Let me know what you guys think happened to her. I would love to know what you guys think. Today, this still is unsolved, and it's 2021. This happened in 69, so that's just crazy. And it's so sad because she was just getting her life together. Her life could have been so beautiful. She was so smart and intelligent, and her and David were so good. They really could have been so awesome. And even David said that he was talking about how if he would have never dropped her off, what their life could have been like and where they would be now. And it's so sad to think about. So hug your loved ones tight when you leave. That's always my thing too, is never end on bad terms. No matter how mad you are, always tell somebody that you love them, because you never know when the last time you're gonna see them is. So always keep that in mind, because freak stuff like this happens and it's so scary. But thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.